Good morning, Sebastian Lucido here. Welcome to 5 Minute Fresh Start. Today we're going to look at, I'm actually teaching this week, about living according to covenant. It's when we understand covenant, when we understand the relationship we have with God, generally we do the opposite of what people are doing in the world. I know it sounds bizarre, but we do the opposite. I have a story here in Genesis chapter 26, and let's look at the first 5 verses. It says, "There was famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, in Gerar. And the Lord appeared to him," that's to Isaac, "do not go down to Egypt, live in the land which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you, bless you. For you and your descendants I will give these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give to you and your descendants all the lands, and your seed and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charges, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." So, here, let's just look at this. There's famine in the land. So there's something called the Fertile Crescent, which when you look at Israel, the Fertile Crescent, it covers, Egypt, all the way around Israel, up into Iraq and Iran. And the reason they call it the Fertile Crescent is there was water supply. We had the Nile down in Egypt. We had the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers up in Iran and Iraq. So when people traveled from Europe, they had to travel they came in down through Israel because it led through the Fertile Crescent, right? If they didn't take a ship by land, you had to go through Israel when you look at a map. The same with those in Persia, Iran, or Iraq, Babylon. They had to come down through Israel to get to Saudi Arabia or the Arabian Peninsula. So the same thing with Egypt. So when there's famine in Israel, Abraham, he wasn't in covenant at the time, went down to Egypt, the Fertile Crescent, because it had fertile water supply. And there were still grains and there was still harvest there because they could irrigate with the water. So now he's in Israel, Isaac's in Israel. And, the natural thing in famine is you don't sow your seed. You don't plant it because there's no rain. And you go down to Egypt or you go to somewhere in the Fertile Crescent where you can get and sustain your family. But God tells him, don't go. Stay in the land because of the covenant promise I made to Abraham, his descendants, and your descendants. That you be blessed in the land. That the covenant would bless you no matter what's going on. So what Isaac did, let me get my timer up here. What Isaac did is he sowed. So if you look at verse 12, it says, "Then Isaac sowed in the land and reaped in the same year 100-fold." So he sowed in the famine. It's the opposite. He sowed in the famine. He received 100-fold return. The man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous, for his possessions and flocks and possessions and herds and great numbers of servants. So the Philistines, or the world envied him, and they began to sort of cut off his water supply, his wells, and that's where we get the new wells. But here's the thing. We don't go by the world's economy. I had some partners actually have to reduce their partnership. Some even stop giving because of inflation and because of other things and fear, actually. And here's the thing. We don't fear famine because we don't live according to the world's economy. We don't flee to Egypt. We don't go to a fertile. We wait for the Lord to bless us right where we're at. Whether it's water from a rock or manna from heaven or quail or somebody just giving you what you need. We don't run. We don't change. We do the opposite. We trust the Lord. We trust his promise to us that his promise would sustain us. So we sow in famine. We give more aggressively in famine because it's a type of faith. I'm teaching on this upcoming week. In fact, by the time this broadcast goes, I probably will have taught it. So you can go back and listen to the entire message. Hey, we're a remote ministry. We're completely remote. We don't have 300 or 400 people coming on Sundays. and you bringing someone to church with you to help them join that church. That's how they grow. We need you to connect us. So please share this message with family and friends and be intentional about it. Make an invitation for them to watch it. Also, please join us at our ministry, watchersoftruth.com. That's watchersoftruth.com. Sign up to be a free member, your name and email address. You'll have access to all of our workbooks and curriculums. It's all free. And then naturally, those of you that understand giving and sowing and reaping, understand that we survive, we sustain, and we grow by your gifts. So please pray about giving us $10 or $15 or $20 a month or more. We have those that give a lot more, but we're just asking if we touch your life in a special way, give us $10 if we're joining you on your journey and you're using us as a supplement to your word, to your journey. God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of 5